Imagine your favorite coffee shop. Imagine your favorite coffee shop. To stay open, the owner has to pay for coffee beans, electricity, and the people who make your latte. Now, imagine if the people in charge of the money couldn't agree on a budget. The shop would have to close, right? No coffee, no workers, nothing. A United States government shutdown is kind of like that, but on a massive nationwide scale. It's a moment when the federal government temporarily stops many of its operations because lawmakers in Congress haven't passed the laws needed to fund them. It's not that the country is out of money, but rather that the political agreement to spend the money has broken down. The government essentially puts up a closed for business sign on many of its doors. The US government doesn't have a magical ever full bank account. Just like a household, it needs a budget to operate. This process is supposed to be an orderly annual affair. The fiscal year for the federal government starts on October 1st. Long before that date, the president submits a proposed budget to Congress. This document is a massive wish list outlining the administration's priorities for the coming year. How much to spend on defense, education, infrastructure, healthcare, and everything in between. It's the opening move in a long and complicated negotiation. This proposal isn't law, it's just a suggestion, a starting point for the real work that happens on Capitol Hill. The House of Representatives works on its version. The Senate works on its version. They are supposed to pass a budget resolution which sets the overall spending limits. Then the real nitty-gritty work begins. The total budget is broken down into 12 smaller spending bills known as appropriations bills. Use marketing flowchart showing money splitting into 12 streams. Each bill covers a different area of government, like the Department of Defense. Department of Education, committees in both chambers hold hearings, they debate the details, and eventually vote on these 12 individual bills. It's a decentralized process designed to ensure careful consideration of every dollar spent. For the government to be fully funded, both the House and the Senate must pass identical versions of all 12 appropriations bills. This is where things get tricky. The two chambers are often controlled by different political parties. They frequently have very different ideas about how much money should go where. They have to negotiate and compromise to resolve these differences. Once they finally agree on a bill, it's sent to the president. If the president signs it, it becomes law. That part of the government is funded for the fiscal year. This entire process must be completed for all 12 bills by the deadline, midnight on September 30th. When it becomes clear Congress won't pass all 12 bills on time, which happens more often than not, they have a backup option, a continuing resolution or CR. A CR is a temporary stopgap funding bill that keeps the government open at current spending levels for a short period, weeks or months. This buys lawmakers more time to negotiate the full year bills. Think of it like hitting the snooze button on a deadline. It avoids an immediate shutdown, but it doesn't solve the underlying disagreements. It just kicks the can down the road, setting the stage for another potential crisis when the CR expires. Government shutdowns are almost never about the simple numbers in a budget. They are the result of deep political disagreements where one or both parties decide that funding the government is less important than winning a fight over a specific policy or principle. It's a high-stakes game of chicken, and the entire federal government is the car they're driving. One party might attach a controversial policy rider to a must-pass funding bill. For instance, they might add a provision to cut funding for a specific environmental regulation or a healthcare program. This forces the other party into a difficult choice. Either accept a policy they strongly oppose or vote against the funding bill and risk being blamed for a shutdown. These standoffs often arise when political power is divided in Washington, a situation known as divided government. This happens when one party controls the White House while the other party controls one or both chambers of Congress. With different parties in power, their priorities are often in direct conflict. For example, one party might want to increase spending on social programs and climate initiatives while the other wants to cut spending and reduce taxes. When it comes time to pass the appropriations bills, these fundamental differences can lead to a complete impasse. neither side wants to give in, fearing it will look weak to its voters and political base. The rise of intense partisan polarization has made these disagreements even harder to solve. In past generations, there was more of a middle ground in both parties, and politicians were often more willing to compromise to keep the government running. Today, politics is often seen as a zero-sum game where one side's victory is the other's defeat. Lawmakers may face more pressure from their most ideological voters and media outlets than from party leaders who might be seeking a compromise. The incentive structure has shifted. For some politicians, forcing a shutdown to make a political point can be more rewarding than the act of governing itself. Ultimately, a shutdown becomes a tool of leverage. A party or a group of lawmakers might believe that the only way to get what they want is to threaten a crisis. They calculate that the other side will eventually cave under public pressure to end the shutdown and reopen the government. They might be trying to force a debate on the national debt, immigration policy, healthcare reform. By refusing to provide the votes needed to fund the government, they essentially take the government's operations hostage to their policy demands. It's a risky strategy that can easily backfire, but it has become an increasingly common feature of American politics. While shutdowns might seem like a modern problem, government shutdowns have actually been part of our history for decades. The rule that makes them possible was clarified in 1980 when Attorney General Benjamin Civiletti issued a key legal opinion. He interpreted the Anti-Deficiency Act of 1884 to mean that without a budget from Congress, agencies must stop operating entirely. That interpretation set the stage for major shutdowns. Fast forward to 1995 to 96. A showdown between President Bill Clinton and a Republican Congress led by Newt Gingrich over cuts aimed at a 7-year balanced budget. Workers were furloughed, national parks closed, passport processing halted, and public opinion turned. In 2013, a 16-day ACA fight. In 2018 and 19, the 35-day record over border wall funding. When the federal government shuts down, the effects are not just some distant or abstract thing, they hit home right away for millions of people. First and foremost, hundreds of thousands of federal employees are directly impacted. These workers are split into two groups. Non-essential workers are furloughed, which means they're sent home without pay. Scientists at NASA, scientists at the EPA, clerks at the Department of Agriculture, TSA agents, border patrol officers, federal prison staff required to keep working, but they don't get their regular paychecks during the shutdown. That creates a ton of financial stress as folks struggle to cover mortgages, rent, and groceries. The public feels it too through the loss of government services. National parks close, monuments close, Smithsonian museums close their doors, which can really mess up vacation plans and hurt local economies that depend on tourism. If you need a new passport for a trip, you might face long delays since processing centers are either running with a skeleton crew or are closed altogether. But the impacts aren't always visible, even though they're just as serious. Scientific research gets put on hold, setting back progress on medical cures or new technologies. Food and drug safety inspections might be reduced, creating possible public health risks. Regulatory work, from workplace safety to financial markets, gets cut back. And a shutdown signals instability to the world, weakening America's standing and influence. In the end, it's a self-inflicted wound that damages the economy, hurts citizens, and erodes trust in government itself. A government shutdown doesn't have a set end date. It just keeps going as long as the political stalemate continues. The government only reopens when Congress and the White House reach an agreement to fund it. This resolution almost always takes one of two forms. First, continuing resolutions, CRs. A CR funds the government for a short period and lets both sides save face. It gets the government running again and pushes the tougher fight down the road. Second, a comprehensive agreement on full-year bills, harder, often requiring a concession, but it fully resolves the standoff. Once a funding bill, CR or full year, passes both chambers and is signed, the government can reopen. Federal agencies order furloughed employees back to work, usually next business day. Restarting isn't instant, it takes time to get the gears turning. A top priority is ensuring federal employees get back pay. Furloughed employees and those who worked without pay receive back pay, usually included in the reopening legislation, but the financial and emotional toll can linger after paychecks arrive. A government shutdown isn't just some political drama or a passing inconvenience. It's a breakdown of the most basic job of a legislature, funding the government that people depend on. The process is supposed to be about debate, negotiation, compromise, leading to a budget that keeps the country running. When that fails, it's not strength. It shows things aren't working as they should. The lights go out on services big and small, and regular people are left in the dark. The real cost isn't just billions lost. It's the erosion of trust and morale among public servants and the difficulty of attracting talent to serve. Avoiding shutdowns isn't about one party winning and another losing. It's about stability and reliability in a modern society. Businesses need predictability, citizens need reliable services, and federal employees deserve respect. Using shutdown threats as a bargaining chip turns governing into a risky game with huge chances of self-inflicted harm. The annual budget should reflect shared priorities and our ability to work together on common challenges. Keeping the government open isn't a big win. It's the bare minimum of responsible leadership, so the essential work of the nation keeps going for everyone's benefit.